Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm T with Teresa H Creates, and in today's video I'm going to do an accordion style binding tutorial. And I just wanted to give you a sneak peek kind of into the way my mind works, my creative mind anyhow. So earlier this month I used some arch dies to make these little tombstone tags. And from tombstone tags I got a tombstone accordion folio. And then from this I've got accordion style binding. And so that's just kind of the way things work here in my space. One thing leads to another. It's almost like if you give a mouse a cookie, if any of you are familiar with that children's book. So anyhow, let's get started. So I haven't done an accordion style binding in forever. And the way I'm going to do it today is going to be a little bit different than anything I've done before. So this is going to be fresh for me. Hopefully I can pull it off. But I have a ton of this Prima Luna paper, and I keep buying it. It's beautiful, but I keep buying it and not using up much of it. So I need to make a book, or I want to make a book, a journal that uses up a lot of this paper. And so that's why I decided to go ahead and try it out with this style. To me, this Luna or this Prima paper really lends itself to kind of the chipboard album making papers or card making. And I had a little bit harder time trying to work this into a journal style. And so that's why I'm doing the accordion binding, and I'm hoping to kind of bring in some different elements. So it's going to look semi-albumish, semi-junk journalish, I think. So anyhow, I've got the Prima Luna in the 12x12, the 8x8, and also the 6x6. I have a ton of ephemera and scraps as well. So let me set this aside and then let's get started with the tutorial. You're going to need some large or chipboard. So this is going to be my cover. You can actually do your cover with anything that you want. I have scrapbook.com. Let me give you the SKU on that so you can see that just in case you're interested in ordering it. So it is scrapbook.com chipboard 1128. It's a black 12x12. I bought a bunch of this about a year ago or more. And then I had, in my scraps, I had a book that I had already cut down the cover of. So I am going to go ahead and use it. This is a 6x8 cover. And I scaled my pages down to 7 3/4 by 5 3/4. So that's the size of my signatures. I went ahead and pulled my papers. And I have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 signatures. All right, so I took a sheet of 12x12 paper and cut it down to the dimensions of my book. And now I am going to, instead of using my scoreboard, I'm just lining up the ends. And I'm going to go ahead and crease it that way. There's no real reason to it other than I thought that I might get a better fold with these. So this is some coffee dyed paper. And then I decided to put a music sheet in this one. And I believe the coffee dyed paper is the same size, and it looks like the music sheet is a little bit shorter, or it's the same height, but it's a little bit shorter in width. So that is my 8th signature. All right, now to start the accordion process, you're going to need a scoreboard. So I've got my scoreboard here. You're going to need a sheet of 12x12 paper. You can actually use any sheet, any size paper that you want. This is going to be our accordion binding. This is what we're going to attach our signatures to. I chose black because I have a black cover. I'm not using a lot of black in my book, but I thought since the binding is going to be exposed, I wanted to have just a solid, nice black color. And then you can see all of these spaces here, all these colors and patterns between that. So I didn't want anything that was going to compete. You're going to go ahead and cut your, for my purposes, because I've got 8 signatures, I cut mine by 4 inches. I wanted a nice 4-inch binding. I'm going to kind of center it here. We'll get started and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So I went ahead and cut down my 12x12 paper into 3 4-inch sheets. I'm not going to need all of these. I'll probably need 2, but let's get started. So I am going to accordion fold this, fan fold it, zigzag fold. What is the other one? Concertina fold, Z fold. So I am going to do that. I want my binding at 1 inch. You can make it 3/4 of an inch. You can make it 2 inches. You can make it 1.5 inches. It's really up to you and what you're comfortable with and what you're doing in your book. I like a whole inch. I like 1 inch for my binding. So I'm going to score this at 1 inch all the way down. And there's the 8 and the 9 and the 10 mark and the 11. All right. Now that I've got it scored, I'm going to fold up and then down. You really want to make sure that these are staying nice and even. I've also seen a lot of people not score these and actually just kind of doing a folding method where, like I kind of did like with that signature, just a free folding. And you can certainly do that. You want to just make sure that your folds are even. It's really important that they're even and that they match up. All right. So let's open it up. And that's what it looks like. Okay, I am going to want, anytime you do this, you're going to attach your covers to these last 2 paid pieces. And so you want them to be up on each end. And the number of signatures that you have is going to be represented by the number of mountains that you have here. So if I wanted to just do it this way, I could use 5 signatures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 mountains. I could have 5 signatures. I've got 8 signatures though. So I'm going to get my scoreboard back out and get another sheet of that 4x4. And then I am going to go ahead and score this one as well. I know that this is more than I need, but I'm going to go ahead and just finish it off. All right. And then these are going to match up. I'm going to fold this one down. Instead of folding up on that first one, I folded down. All right. I think that will give me enough. Okay. So if I'm here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, nope, 8, and then 9. Let's try that again. So if I connect these 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then this will be my little lip up to attach my cover. So then I am going to trim it there. All right, now I'm going to take some double-sided tape and put it down on this fold here. I actually cleaned up for this, so I've put all my supplies away, and then I'm shocked that they're not somewhere on my desk. Go figure. I mean, they're all handy. I have one of those little carts right beside me that holds all my tools, but you know. All right, I am going to use some art glitter glue just so that I have a little bit of wiggle room, because I want this to line up perfectly. This is probably the most, you have to be pretty precise with this one. So a little bit fiddly, but it's nice to have binding options that are no-sew. And this is how I came up with this. I think I mentioned in my last video where I was doing the accordion style, that I really like the no-sew options, especially early on when I was intimidated by sewing in signatures. Now it's not a big deal, but yeah. Okay, so now it's connected. So again, my covers will attach here when all is said and done, right? Yes, and then my signatures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 of them. So I've also cut out, these are 1/2 inch strips. This isn't necessary that you do this. It's helpful for me though. And so I've done this. So these are, I think they're 6. I just took some of my scrap paper and I cut out 8 of these. They're 6 by 1/2 inch, 6 inches by 1/2 inch. And I'll show you why in a minute. It'll make sense why I did that way. So let me get out let me decide which one is going to be my front and center signature. Which one do I want front and center? I'm thinking either this one or this one. Let's just go with this one. It's got the little spiders on it, and I'm not a fan of spiders, but let's just do this. Let's get it over with. Okay. So in a perfect world, this would be your 8 inch. And because we did 4 inch, you would be able to mark the center and then 2 inches on each side. And the measurement on this would be absolutely perfect. But because I am doing these a little bit smaller than my cover, which I'd already cut to the exact size of 8 by 6, I'm going to have to fiddle with it for just a second. So I'm just going to say that this is my center line. That makes sense to me. And let me put this here and see if I can get it lined up. You can always measure this. And I think that is about right there. It would be nice if I had done these the exact size and then I could have measured them perfectly. But it really, you know, I mean, it really just doesn't matter. And I'm going to give these a little tick on either side. All right. Now that I've done that, I'm going to line up my pages on the inside. I'm going to flip this over and let me grab my awl, and I'm going to poke a hole right there where I marked. All right. So we've poked all the way through. We poked our hole right there where we've marked. Now I'm going to use this one as my template to go ahead and mark my other signatures. So next signature in the book at random, I'm going to say is this one. So I want to line up my pages inside the way I want them, because not all of the pages inside of this are exactly the same, are going to be exactly the same size. So I want to make sure that they're where I want them. So much like when you're doing signatures, I'm going to go ahead and drop this on the inside. Like when you're doing signatures. Let me get my book for my pokey tool, and then I'm going to go through and using those holes that I did before, I'm going to go ahead and poke holes in this signature. There we go. And you always want to use the original page that you used for your markers as your cutting guide, as your guide. So I'm going to show you, I'll do the rest of these since I have 8 of them off camera, but I want to show you why I poked them and then how we're going to attach them to the accordion fold. So let me see. I want to make sure I've got nice holes in here. So I'm just kind of reinforcing those. Here's my straight edge. I'm going to put it, I'm going to do it this way. I think it's a little bit easier to see even though it's black. I'm going to do it on the fold line. So you can use a box cutter or an X-Acto blade, and you're going to cut from one hole all the way down to the other, and now you know where to stop. You're going to do that with all of your signatures. And you may have to poke them again if you can't see them. There we go. So you're going to go from one hole to the other. All right, let me put this one back together. This is going to be the second signature in my book. Let me go ahead. This is the pages from the first one. I'm going to go ahead and cut those. One hole to the other. And one hole to the other. All right. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go ahead and attach two of my signatures so that you can see what this looks like. I'm using this right here, the first one that I did. I'm using this as my template to cut the holes in the rest of my signatures. So I'm just going to attach the pages that I had on the inside. So let me turn this up this way. And this first mountain, I am going to work, and I'm hoping I can do this all at one time. I may have to do one at a time, but I'm hoping to get the entire signature in here. I'm going to go ahead and put these in just for a placeholder. Just a placeholder. Okay. And then that's why we want those to be pretty exact, because we don't want them sliding up and down too much. Now, the reason I cut these strips is because there's nothing holding this on here. And as I'm working through this book with all the signatures, I don't want these to fall out. So these are just here. I'm going to put this right there. This is just here to keep this signature from falling out. That was it. So you can use any kind of scrap paper that you want for that. Not a problem. All right. Let me see if I can get this into. So the next mountain here, I'm going to put my second signature in there. And I may have to do, these papers are a little bit thicker, so I may have to do them separately. And you can tell that my X-Acto blade isn't the sharpest. I kind of cut those edges there. There we go. I might be able to do, the edges on these are just a little bit rough, so I need to get a new blade on that. And then there we go. Fits in there like a glove. All right, and I'm going to put this one in here and my placeholder. So now you get the idea of what this is going to look like. I'll have the rest of these signatures in these spots. So I will make these cuts, and then I will work these signatures into all of these mountains. And then when I come back, I'll show you how we're going to permanently secure these signatures inside this fold. Okay? All right, so let me make my cuts and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I've made all my cuts. I've attached all my signatures, and this is the final, well, this is the result so far. Not the final result, but the result so far. It is a nice, compact, tight book. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Now, a couple of things that I learned while I was doing this process. Because I used a pencil and not a very sharp pencil to make my measurement marks, which I think is fine, I didn't get super close to the end of this. I got a little further out. So as I was using my awl, I got further, I think further and further out from where I was using. So you can see some of these cuts. Let me get it up close so you can see. It looks a little, you see all the fibers and the cuts are a little bit extended. So I think next time what I would do is I might measure with the pencil and not use the awl. I'm not sure, or I'll just be more careful with how I use the awl. I'm accustomed to sewing in signatures now, and so I'm pretty aggressive with my awl and just sticking it all the way in there where it's bigger and it's really forcing a lot. You don't need a big mark. You just need a small mark in order to slice from one mark to the other mark. So I should have been less aggressive with this. Another thing that I did, once I cut my first signature and I went to cut the others, instead of holding it down and cutting from the back into the book or into the, through the spine, I was taking this and dropping it inside the middle of this and then going out. So it was pushing the fibers out on the outside of this. And so those were two things that I did. I wasn't very exact with my measurements. I got a little aggressive with my awl. So I guess three things. And then I didn't make the awl marks from the outside, from the spine side. I did cut them from the spine side though. So I did hold them this way and then make my cuts this way from the top fold instead of the inside. So that was just a little bit of a takeaway. Also, your tools are really important. I did change the blade on my X-Acto after the first few cuts, and then I was able to cut through all 3 signature pages for each one of these, or all 3 pages in the signature for each one of these after the first few that I did on camera that were really jankety. So my blade had definitely seen better days, and so it was definitely time to replace. So not a problem cutting through multiple signatures at a time. Now that I've got this in and placed, right, I am going to just make sure everything is lined up and that it's nice and tight. It fits in there good. And like I said, because there was so much moving around and stuff, having that little placeholder that I put in there really helped. It really helped to secure everything in. So now we're going to go through the process of locking these pages in permanently. There are lots of ways to do this. This is how you're really going to embellish your book. So I've seen some people keep these placeholders in place, keep them in their book. And sometimes oftentimes they go the full length of the page, the actual signature. And then they'll use that to attach whatever papers they're going to use to that so that this portion is actually visible. And that's fine. That's totally fine. If that's the look that you're going for, that's totally fine. It's not the look I'm going for, so I am not going to use that. But you do want to make sure that everything stays in line while you do this process. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to make sure everything's lined up. I'm going to make sure this is pulled out tight, and then I am going to create my pocket. And I am going to actually go ahead and glue this guy. Let me get this lined up where I want it. Let's make sure I'm not going to have a ton of time. Let's get it lined up. And there we go. I think that looks good. All right. And I am going to make a pocket in here. Okay. I think I was going to use the flip side of that. I'm going to go ahead and attach it here. So you're only going to be able to use a portion of the pocket. I'm going to lock it in completely, and I'm fine with that. and I did it the wrong way. All right, let me take my paper and see if I can get some of that glue off real quick. All right, I don't want that to get anywhere else. I'm gonna make sure that that's kind of nice and dryish. Okay, so then that's it. And now the signature is permanently locked in. It's not going anywhere. And now I've got a fantastic pocket. Let's go to the next one. So this is really your opportunity to customize this project. I mean, really. You can make all kinds of pockets for it, add pages, really bulk it up. I am going to put this down towards the bottom because I want to put a tag in it, and so I want to leave some more space at the top. So then I'm going to open it up on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and put the glue down. And then I want to make sure there's not any glue anywhere, so that when I close it, I'm not gluing any of this together. And then keep going. Next one. And you'll notice how you'll want, as you go through it, you'll want to kind of pull up to make sure they're pulled flush and to also make sure they're staying aligned in here. And this one is practically the same length as this page. All right, fold it over and go ahead and close up the envelope. All right, now that one has two pockets. And then next, I think that, make sure everything's lined up again. I think that I'm going to attach this back one first, because it's just so much larger. And then this side, I'm going to close up this pocket. There we go. Okay, on this one, I decided to use these envelopes, and these envelopes are, they're pretty thin, and so they're actually super, super thin, and I didn't feel comfortable having them in here as my signature holder, so I bulked them up a little bit by adding some of the pattern paper, and then I did some collage on the insides of it. So this one has the cover, the flap, covered in paper, and then this one had the actual envelope piece covered in paper. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock them in here. However, I also wanted the additional support or decoration of putting this this little bit in here to help hold some of that down. And so this is just some glitter acetate. It was an acetate border, and it's been sitting in my stash for forever. I wasn't sure how I was going to use that ever. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the back of the envelope as well. That way it attaches to some of that acetate. I don't know how well it's going to hold it, but it's going to attach to it and it'll be locked in. There we go. And because these are so thin, I am going to go ahead and glue them down. I could glue them in a way that would leave a pocket in the center, but they're already envelopes. Both of them are going to be able to hold items, so I don't think that it's necessary. Also, you don't have to do this with glue. If you're not a fan of using the glue, you could use score tape is fine also. Your double-sided score tape would work, as well as a combination of score tape and glue, if you felt more comfortable using both. I got those lined up. And then we also have this nice decorative piece here in the center. How pretty is that? Look at that. All right, we're getting close to the end. And I think we're staying on target here, trying to keep it all aligned up. All right, let me get ready to glue this down. This is going to be a rather large pocket. There we go. Let me glue it closed now. And this one was probably the easiest one since it just folded over. It was the same size. Okay. And then there we go. So they are all securely in there. They're all lined up and secure. Perfect. It feels great. It feels sturdy. All right, now we're going to move on to adding the covers. There are a couple of ways that I've seen people do this, but there's one that I definitely prefer over the other. Some people will put the cover on, and then wrap this binding around. It does get a little bit finicky, and you do have to do a little bit of burnishing just because it is going over this chipboard and it's much thicker. And then you're able to decorate the inside cover and the outside cover and everything, and then obviously putting something down on that provides more support. The other way I've seen is that they've attached it this way. So it's attached on the inside. I lean towards actually wrapping it around. To me, it just feels like a hug. And I think that it feels better. And I realize that then it's going to be on the outside of your chipboard and on the outside. But I just feel like it's better there. It is just what I prefer. So let us go ahead and do that. Let me make sure these are all nice and tight and lined up. And then I am going to put a generous amount of glue. Because I don't want this going anywhere, and it'll probably leak everywhere, as a matter of fact. And I want to get it's slightly bigger than my book, my pages. So I want to line it up with the spine, but then I want to make sure that it's also got room, equal amounts of room on either end. And you want to do this before your art glitter glue dries. Right? Right. I think that I'm looking good. And I am going to fold it over. I'm also going to take my bone folder and I'm going to burnish this. see, is this up here? Yeah. Add a little bit more glue there. I get to fiddling with it, and then it's, yeah, my glue dries. Okay, now the other side. Alrighty. Now again, I think this time I'm going to line it up, and then I'm going to put the glue on. You have to hold it tight because when you wrap it around, it's going to want to push the book out. Does that look about right? All right. I am going to glue this up. And fold it over. Oh, and I slipped. Unfortunately, with the wet glue, I have a minute. I'm going to burnish that down. Get it down real good. Open it up. Okay, I don't have a lot of glue seeping in. I wanted to make sure. I don't want to glue my cover to my first page there. All right, and then where are we? Okay, that is the back of the book. So that is it. That is how you create an accordion binding on a junk journal. And it is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. So lots of things that you can do with this. It obviously does not have to be chipboard. It could be a cardstock that you've got layered up. It can be whatever you want, just like any other kind of junk journal. I just like the feel of the chipboard on this one in particular. And this one's a good weight. That one that from scrapbook.com that I got, that chipboard is really nice. So you don't have to do 4 inches in the center. You could also break this up and do, I mean, depending on how big it is, I could have done maybe tabs here and tabs here instead, and then all of this would have been open. That would have been really fussy. People who do the 2 sets, that is above and beyond to me, because that, can you imagine trying to put all those little, no. And then you'd have to make double the cut, no. Maybe one day, maybe a very tiny accordion journal. Also, in case you hadn't noticed, I also did not ink up the edges of anything in this book, and that is really unlike me. I wanted to keep the pages soft, so that's why I didn't ink up any of these edges. Completely unlike me, but see, it can be done on occasion. So other things that you can do with this is, if you wanted additional stability, I have seen some people actually wrap fabric around this. So if you had actually put this on the inside of the cover, then you could add additional stability by putting fabric wraps on the outside of it, like little strips that would basically wrap from end to end here and here. Again, that creates some stability. It's not unstable though. It creates additional stability. It's great as far as a decorative look goes, but it does inhibit your ability to grow. Another thing that I've seen to keep it more stable is some people choose to glue these in the centers instead of leaving them open. I left mine open because I think that it allows for some growth. I can add a lot to this as far as embellishments go, and I'm not really putting a lot of pressure on these glued bits, but some people have actually glued those mountains together so that they were a little bit more of a solid piece. I just choose to leave mine open, and I like this squishy feel that it gets, or that it has that way. So that is all I can think of right now. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer. There are other ways to use this same binding and to attach your papers. If you're interested in seeing some different ways of using this same type of binding but attaching your papers differently, just let me know and I'm more than happy to create those videos. Anyhow, thanks for spending some time with me and until next time, bye.